What if I told you that getting a second job actually makes you more likely to go bankrupt? It sounds insane. You make double the money, so you should have double the wealth, right? Wrong. We've been tricked into playing a game where the rules were changed without us noticing. Today, I'm going to show you the silent math that proves why two incomes are the biggest financial trap in history, and exactly how to escape it before it crushes you. Most people think families are broke today because they buy iPhones, $7 lattes, and Netflix subscriptions. That is a lie. That is what the banks want you to think, so you blame yourself. The real problem is what experts call the auction. Imagine a house for sale in a good school district in 1970. Back then, usually only the dad worked, so the maximum bid for this house was limited to one salary. The bank knew this. The sellers knew this. The price had a glass ceiling it couldn't break through because nobody had the money to pay more. But today, almost everyone sends both parents to work. That means every family you are competing against has two incomes. So what happened? Did we all get twice as rich? No. The bank simply allowed us to borrow twice as much money. To get that same house in that same safe neighborhood, you have to bid two salaries because everyone else is. You aren't getting twice the house. You're paying twice the price for the same life your grandparents had on one income. The second income didn't buy you freedom, it just bid up the price of admission. But the auction is just the start. The real trap is something called the fixed cost prison. This is the most dangerous concept in modern finance, and nobody teaches it in school. In the 1970s, a family's budget was mostly discretionary. That means they spent money on things they could control: food, clothes, entertainment. If the dad lost his job, the family could instantly cut their spending. They stopped buying steak and bought beans. They didn't buy new clothes. They survived because their expenses were flexible. Today, the two-income family looks completely different. Because you have two incomes, you felt safe signing up for massive fixed contracts. You signed a 30-year mortgage that requires two salaries to pay. You signed two car leases. You signed contracts for daycare, insurance, and student loans. Here is the nightmare scenario. If you lose your job today, you cannot cut back. You can't tell the bank, "I'll pay half the mortgage this month because I'm eating beans." You can't tell the daycare, "I'll pay you less this month." These are fixed costs. In the 70s, fixed costs were about 50% of a family's budget. Today, for a two-income family, they are often 75% or higher. You have locked yourself into a financial structure that requires 100% efficiency, 100% of the time. You have built a machine with no brakes, and that brings us to the double risk paradox. Logic says two incomes are safer than one, right? Diversification. If one person loses a job, you have a backup. That is the biggest myth of all. Because you used both incomes to qualify for your mortgage and your cars, you are now dependent on both jobs to survive. Think about a bridge held up by two pillars. If the bridge is heavy because you bought a big house and two cars, it needs both pillars to stand. If one pillar cracks, the whole bridge collapses. By having two earners support a massive lifestyle, you have actually doubled your odds of disaster. You now have two people who could get fired, two people who could get sick, two people who could get burnt out. If either of you stumbles, the family goes insolvent. A single-income family in the 70s only had 1 point of failure. You have two. And because your fixed costs are so high, you have less time to react when disaster strikes. Now let's look at the silent partner in your marriage. The government. Let's say your spouse gets a job making $50,000. You think you're $50,000 richer? Let's do the real math that your HR department won't show you. Number one, the marginal tax cliff. The first dollar your spouse earns doesn't start at the 0% tax bracket. It stacks on top of your income. It starts at your highest marginal tax rate. If you earn a decent living, the government might instantly take 25% to 30% of your spouse's paycheck. Number two, the work-related costs. You need a second car. You can't share a ride if you work in different places. Boom. Car payment, insurance, gas, repairs. That's $8,000 a year gone. Number three, the convenience tax. This is subtle but deadly. When both parents work, nobody has time to cook from scratch, repair things around the house, or shop for deals. You are time poor, so you pay for convenience. You order takeout, $50 instead of $10 for groceries. You hire a cleaner. You pay for dry cleaning. You buy lunch at work. You are spending money to compensate for the fact that you are working. Number four, childcare. This is the killer. The average cost of daycare is astronomical. Let's tally it up. That $50,000 salary, minus $12,000 in taxes, minus $8,000 for the car, minus $5,000 for convenience costs, minus $15,000 for daycare. You are left with $10,000. You are working 40 hours a week, dealing with stress, traffic, and missing your kids, for a net profit of maybe $4 per hour. Is it worth it? For many people, the answer's no, but they never run the numbers. They just see the $50,000 gross salary and think they are rich, while their bank account stays empty. But here's the scariest part, the part nobody talks about. In the old days, if the dad lost his job, the mom could enter the workforce to save the day. She was the ultimate insurance policy. She was the backup generator. But today, you have no backup. The backup generator is already running at full capacity just to keep the lights on. If you lose your job, you can't send your spouse to work. They are already working. You have played your last card. That is why statistical studies show that two-income families go bankrupt more often than single-income families. Not because they are stupid, but because they have built a life with zero margin for error. So do we all quit our jobs and go back to 1950? No, that's not realistic. But you have to hack the system. You have to stop playing by the bank's rules. Here's the golden rule to winning the game. The 50% rule. You can earn two incomes, but you must live on one. This is the only way to escape the trap. Sit down tonight. Look at your fixed costs. Rent, mortgage, car payments, insurance. Can you cover these with just the lower of your two salaries? If the answer is no, you are in the danger zone. You need to restructure your life until the answer is yes. This might mean driving older cars with no payments. It might mean living in a slightly smaller house than the bank says you can afford. But here is the magic. If you live on one income and save the second one entirely, you save 50% of your household income. You will be a millionaire in less than 15 years. If one of you loses a job, who cares? You were living on one income anyway. You have zero stress. If one of you wants to take a break, go back to school, or start a business, you can. You have bought your freedom. The trap is bidding two incomes for a life that only requires one. The trap is giving your freedom to the bank in exchange for a slightly nicer SUV. Don't let the auction dictate your life. Stop bidding against the crowd. Live smaller than you earn, keep your backup generator fueling your bank account, and stop falling for the trap. Subscribe if you want to keep your money.